everybody, what is going on? It's your boy Izzo33 bringing you a new series to my channel. This is not TFT time or will it work? It's something completely different to that, but still is related to TFT. Now, what you see here is the TFT logo and I've done some slight alterations to it. Ta-da! This is Teamfight Tactics Concepts. This is where I'm taking 5 champions that aren't already in TFT and adding them into the game mode myself as ideas for Riot to maybe pick up and actually do. So we're going to jump straight into things with assassins and demons today, as we've got 5 characters to run down for you. Starting off with what I thought was going to be the new 5-cost champion, before I found out, spoiler alert, Kaiser is coming to TFT. So let's start off with the bad boy Master Yi. He, as I just said, is going to be a 5-cost champion, and with him being a 5-cost champion, you obviously have to realize he's going to be very strong. Now, with that in mind, let's discuss his actual traits. So starting off, he's going to be a Blade Master. Fairly obvious considering he's a wielder of a sword, and it sort of fits how he is in normal League of Legends with his additional strikes that he occasionally gets with his Ryuju style and his normal attacks. So with that also in mind, he's going to be an assassin, and that kind of links into how his ultimate plays out. So what his ultimate will be is a combination of his ultimate in normal league, where he resets his cooldown every strike. So in a sense, it's a cooldown reduction-esque ultimate, as a sense that he gains probably additional mana back while he's ulting or using any normal attack. And as you can tell, his actual ultimate, once it's fully charged, will be a Alpha Strike-esque ultimate. Now, the way this will work is obviously it'll be increased the higher the level he is, so obviously he'll hit more targets the higher the level he is. So he'll hit about 2 or 3 at level 1, 4 or 5 at level 2, 6 or 7 at level 3, hitting pretty much everything that will be on the board with his ultimate. Now, obviously this will be very powerful and he'll do a lot of damage the quicker he attacks, so that's why I feel he's going to be a great addition for TFT if they eventually add him. Moving on, we're going to talk about Talon. This guy, I feel, could be a better version of Akali as a 2-cost champion. Now, a 2-cost champion, he's going to have some fairly decent traits, and one of them obviously will be Assassin, as well as Imperial. He'll sort of fit into that scale up of Imperials, as there isn't a 2-cost Imperial, as there's Darius who's a 1-cost, Katarina who's a 3-cost, Draven as a 4-cost, and Swain as a 5-cost. There's no real 2-cost into that sort of team comp, and so you obviously want that trait bonus quite early without having to wait to get the Swain. So it'd be a nice addition to this sort of thing. Yes, he is the same typing as Katarina, but it's still a bit more of a balanced thing, as he'll fit quite nicely into TFT if he's slotted in a 2-cost situation. Now, his ultimate is basically his normal W in League. It is his Rake, and what that does is it will fire off a strikes in 3 locations, well, 3 prongs out, hitting multiple targets that then come back to him. Moving on from Mr. Talon, let's jump straight into another option for an assassin at 5-cost. It is going to be Nocturne. Now, Nocturne has some fairly unique typing to him. He's going to be a Phantom Demon an assassin, this sort of fits how he is in League, as he's a spooky ghost character that obviously could be classed as a demon and also a phantom as a whole. He's also an assassin, as the way he's used is very burst heavy assassin style champions. Plus, he's classed as an assassin if you look up assassins in League. And the way his ult will be is going to be paranoia. It's going to be similar to obviously his in game, where he makes things nearsighted, which obviously means that ults and attacks can't hit multiple targets, like Hurricane can't hit targets out of its sight. It kind of limits the attackers in the sense that they can't hit more targets, only things they can actually see. Also, it'll be useful as it allows him to basically get a second dash off. In a sense, that will be very useful as a way to get onto the furthest target. Or it could be used to target low health. It depends on really how they would like to use him. Plus, with these traits, he's obviously going to be able to drain mana every auto attack, so we can get these ults off a lot more, meaning less damage is done to overall your team, because he's most likely going to be used in an assassin team comp, as assassins do tend to get burst out a lot, and having something that can help against that would be fairly useful in the form of a Nocturne. So, now that we're done with Mr. Nocturne, let's move on to some demons. Now, I have two ideas for demons in this episode, and the first one, other than Nocturne, will be Thresh. Now, Thresh is going to be quite similar to Blitzcrank, so be ready for this. Now, Thresh is going to be a 3-cost champion, so slightly more than what Blitz will be. He's also a demon brawler, as they're literally the best traits that fit him in current TFT. Yes, you could say Guardian if you go for certain ults, but the ult that I went with was the Death Sentence. Now, obviously, Death Sentence has two versions of it. You have the straight hook thrown out, as well as the jump to the target. Now, that could be very useful, as a sense that you can obviously jump to and from targets and keep going like that. Now, in comparison to Blitz, who literally just ults to get a target near to him, and then he'll pull them, launch them up in the air. I guess it's very similar, but Thresh as a whole will want to get in range, and this ult will be up a bit more frequently than Blitz's ult, as a means to make him more of a viable option in your team comps. Now, with this in mind, he is a 3-cost, in my mind, is the best way to suit him. And as a whole, it would be fairly balanced to have him at this. Unless you give him, say, a lantern as his ability. Now, obviously, a lantern could be used in many ways. You can chuck it to the lowest health character, and they'll automatically pick it up, and then they'll be dragged to him in a sort of safeguard means, so they're not actually getting burst. I guess as a way to counter assassins. So obviously you can chuck it onto your backline that being bursted out by an assassin. You can obviously have the lantern hit them, and then they get pulled across. Fairly decent ultimate, to say the least, if they go for that. And finally, let's discuss our last option. It's going to be Hecarim. Now, Hecarim has a very good ult for what I have planned. He's going to be 4-cost, so it's not going to be too overpowered, but he has a bit of power behind him. And his actual traits are going to be Demon, and a new one that I've decided that should be added is Horseman. And Horseman, in a sense, they start with either a 25% increased movement speed or an increased movement speed that fits TFT a bit better than what the starting champions or champions in TFT have. because he's a kind of a fast boy, and it should work with his champion, in a sense, with his ultimate, and how he should really be implemented into this. And the way it works is this ultimate, well, his trait reflects devastating charge, and he's going to have the use of that in his ultimate, as we see here in this clip. In this clip, he's using the devastating charge alongside the onslaught of shadows as a means to amplify the way he works. As we can see here that he uses the devastating charge, and then the ult fears targets nearby, which obviously will stop the attacks coming through on them, and he can be seen as a very strong sort of counterpick to the likes of these glacials or demons in certain aspects, like other demon comps, as he kind of fears them away, stopping these stuns being put on their team, the mannered burns, all that stuff is very good. He'll go through probably to the lowest health target, obviously fearing everything that he goes through, and as such could be seen as very powerful. And with that in mind, that's going to be the end of the first episode of TFT Concepts. I'm very pleased on how this has actually turned out, on how I've made this, and as a whole, I have got more champions planned. I've made a whole list. I have some reject 9.18 ideas for champions they could have added in terms of what came in 9.18 in the entirety of League, in terms of skins and stuff like that. So we can contemplate that. Anyway, that's going to be the end of this episode. If you enjoyed it, leave a like down below. Subscribe if you're new around here, and I will see you guys later. Peace.
I'm a star in the spotlight.